Good afternoon and happy 2026. I am out here on Lock and Dam 14 on the Mississippi River, and today we're going to explore Smith's Island, which is an island out in the river here, now owned by, I think, the state and the Corps of Engineers. And it used to be a place where a farmer had a house and there were cabins and lots of things like that. Now it's a nature area with a little trail. So I've got the adventuresome Dolk with me today. We're gonna go on this little walk. It's just about 1.25 miles from what I understand. And we'll also check out, some of the flora and fauna around this really cool lock and dam. There's some pelicans here, there's some buffleheads, a lot of eagles today because it's January and the eagles love to be on the Mississippi River in the winter. So yeah, it's going to be a big year for outdoor stuff. Thanks for tuning in to Professor Outdoors. Oh, gotta stop for a quick itch. Dog is doing good. We're walking our way up onto the island. Now these guys are just magnificent. Their little fluffy butts, little fluff on their heads. I hope they are gonna catch some fish today. Boy, look at these cool dudes. If I remember correctly, the males get a little fluffier head and they get these interesting bumps on their beak that can be quite pronounced. So I think this guy, one of these, looked like a male to me. Maybe the guy in the upper right. No, this dude right here. This guy in the lower left. He's got the start of one of those bumps. They get those for mating season. But I would guess they have either become acclimated to fishermen or people feed them or both, because seem mighty interested in what I'm doing. Pretty neat birds. So when I was a kid, going to school in the Quad Cities, Iowa, we always had field trips to the Lock and Dam, but Lock and Dam 15, which is down at the Rock Island Arsenal. This is a much smaller one here. I think this is actually a pleasure boat lock, and I'm not sure how often it's in use, but there is a lot of pleasure boat traffic on this pool, and especially kind of behind Smith's Island. There's just a lot of places where people like to hang out and kind of park their boats and stuff. So we'll probably see the large barge lock and dam as we go further. But this is cool too. All right, so we're out on the nature trail now. Dolk is keeping the pace. And as I expected, here's the commercial locks. This little park looks like it'd be a fun place to fish. It's on the Iowa side, so I wouldn't need to buy another fishing license. It's a place called Fisherman's Corner over here in Illinois that also looks great for camping, but of course you got to have an Illinois license for that, so something to consider. As expected, here is the commercial lock and dam. And if you've never been through one of these, how it works is you basically would come from upriver or downriver, and you go through these gates. They'll open those. You go into the chamber over here, and then they will fill it with water or lower the water, depending whether you're going upriver or downriver. Basically, you're in kind of like a big elevator with your boat, and it's pretty cool. Pleasure boats get last priority, so if you have barges coming through, you have to wait for them. And they usually come in a set of 15 in this part of the upper Mississippi. And a lot of times those have to be split up to go through. So basically two locking through. So you might wait 2 to 4 hours for one barge to come through. And if there's one coming upstream and one coming downstream, you're going to wait for both of them. So you want to make sure you have a good bar and grill scoped out so that you can have somewhere to wait. Okay, so we're here next to the chamber of the lock and dam. Dolk is like, what are we doing? There's a very nice warm heated bathroom here, which is quite welcome. But this is kind of the end of the line for walking here. So I have to backtrack a little bit. I kind of missed the turn for the nature trail. Wasn't very well marked, or I wasn't paying attention. But there is a nice spot here with picnic tables and a bench and this viewing platform. So if you want to come see the boats lock through, I can see why that would be a huge attraction if you didn't grow up doing this as your field trip every year. You can do it. And there's lots of birds and pretty river here. So we'll just backtrack and find our way onto Smith's Island. Okay, so the trail does pick up right over here. There is a sign, I just kind of missed it. You just kind of come in this little complex and then walk over here, and it's going to go in this causeway over to the island. So we are back on the right track again. All right, there's a little shipyard here. It's got the Davenport and the Bettendorf, some tugs or little pusher tugs kind of. And there's sort of this harbor with seagulls and stuff. And there's walking. So this causeway, it says it's 1 mile, 20 minutes. So Dolk is looking for a goose poop and having a great time. And we're going to keep moving because it's windy and cold out here. All right, so we're on the bridge. Dolk's having a great time. It is super windy and cold. But here's a little outflow. I see a bobber, a couple of bobbers in the tree there. Oh, a ton of bobbers in the tree, actually. This must be a good place to fish, and I'm wondering about the sticks pile here. I don't know if that's just kind of flooding, but it's more like a beaver did this. The way it's stacked and some of the chewed edges. So that's pretty cool. A lot of ice out here and some animal tracks on it. But we're going to get in the woods because it's so windy. All right. Here's our trail. Here's our Dolk. Looks like we got a nice little loop trail we can do. So we'll check it out. Probably go right at first and come back around. It's pretty muddy out here, but thankfully I wore some good boots. Here we are. Welcome to Smith's Island. Oh yeah, here's our trail map. Easy enough. Oh, looks like there's some mushrooms. There's the Dolk and some wildflowers in the spring. That'll be nice. All right, so we're on the trail here, and we're out of the wind, which is really nice. This is very pretty. There's some geese out there, and there are beaver lodges. So that, along with a lot of beaver-chewed trees along here, have solved my question of whether that was natural or animal-made. It was animal-made log jam back there. Dolk's finding fun things to look at, and I really want to come back here fishing in the warm weather. You know, growing up near the Mississippi, I rarely fished it. It just wasn't a thing. Like, I fished in lakes, and then by the time I got to high school, I was fishing in trout streams and thought that was the only thing to do, and kind of looked down on catfish and what we called rough fish back then that are now better known as native fish. And there's some kind of little animal out here on the ice too. That's cool. I don't know what he is. I don't know if that's a beaver or what. I'll have to zoom in. But yeah, I think this would be a fun place to cast a line. All right, there's actually two of these little guys, and I think they're muskrats. Saw their little tail. They must be up here foraging for something above the ice. And then, oh, there's another one there. They seem to be quite a few of them around. So I might be able to get closer and see what these little critters are. They sure are cute, though. Cute little sucker. There he goes. This is cool. Starting to see signs of former civilization, including a house up here. So we're kind of at the halfway point of the loop, and we're gonna go check out this house. And then there's this nice cove here with cabins on the other side. Okay, so here are the remains of the Hefner house. This was the gentleman who owned the island. Dolk's a little impatient with my historical stuff, but yeah, this was his house here, and you can see what a commanding view. And there have been some some Eagle Scouts here have built a little shelter out of driftwood, and I guess this is called the LeClaire Canal over here. I grew up driving past this and looking down, and there are always lots of people with the pleasure boats hanging out here. Really pretty, but it looks like this used to be quite a vibrant community. You can see this is what the island looks like now, and that's what it used to look like. So a lot of it is now underwater. That's the former house, and it said there was a clay industry over here making tiles and bricks with blue clay. That's really cool. I'll have to look for some of that, make some pots maybe. And then some mussel shell stuff too. Musseliers camp. Never heard of a musselier before, but I guess that's a person who works with the mussel. So yeah, A lot of history out here on the island. Very cool. I love stuff like this. Look at this cool little hut. Dolk is gonna check it out. It's got a little path worn into it. I mean, you could spend a night in here or a day. I don't know. All right, so I've kind of got to the top of the trail. There's the house behind me and the wooden teepee, I guess, and we're gonna start winding our way back. Dolk is a little impatient with me, but he's still learning the hiking thing. He's just a baby. He's just a year old. So we're gonna walk on this way and then get back to the truck and go home. And I think I'm gonna make some Birria tacos. It's a cold day. Really been loving the InstantPot for things like that. So we'll have a cozy evening. Okay, I'm back here at the beginning of the trail by the shipyard. And this is great. What a cool spot. I saw some really big squirrels, some muskrats. I saw deer tracks. It's dog friendly on a leash. This is a spot I definitely want to come back and fish in the warmer weather and look for wildflowers too. This is really cool. So it's getting, it's an hour and a half till dark. So getting colder, and I think it's time to go cook those tacos. All right. See you back in the kitchen. Okay, I'm back home and I'm ready to make some tacos. So I've got some boneless lamb here, and I have these Birria bombs. They're basically, we've got dogs running around. These Birria bombs are basically like giant bath bombs, but for your tacos. So you kind of put that in there with about 6 cups of water, and you put in the meat, and I'm gonna kind of mash it up to dissolve it. And then it cooks for about an hour in the pressure cooker, and it's gonna make delicious tacos. So I'll show you how that looks when it is all done. Till then, me and Scotty will be here hanging out. Okay, here's how we're gonna prepare these. So I've taken the meat, kind of shredded it up so it's tender. And this is not authentic, by the way. I'm using flour tortillas. You should be using corn, and probably doing a lot of things different. But if you want authentic Mexican cooking, we're gonna have to have Chef Victor on the channel again, because obviously he knows how to do this. But I'm just this is what I had in the pantry. I'm just kind of riffing on that. So I'm gonna put the meat there, and then I've got some shredded habanero cheddar cheese. Again, not authentic. Probably have real Mexican cheese if you want to do this the right way, but this is what I had hanging around. So put some of that in there. I'm going to put some around the edges so that it melts out. This is kind of like something I've had called a quesadilla. It's almost like a little pizza type thing. But we're gonna do that. I'm gonna put some onions in here, and it's kind of gonna be like a quesadilla. I'm gonna lay the other tortilla on top here. We're gonna get this nice and hot, and then I'll show you when I flip it. As I'm cooking this, see the cheese is starting to melt. You actually want some to leak out of the sides if you can. It'll make kind of like a little lacy pattern around it. So I'm just gonna encourage some of that to get really good and sizzled up there. But as you can see, I've flipped it once and it's getting nice and melty in there. Looks really good. Okay, well, you've got the quesadilla now, so you cut it into sections and you dip it in the consomme, the broth, from your Instant Pot, and then you have a delicious meal. Of course, add hot sauce or whatever as desired. I could show you how to do that, but it's not a cooking show, and you can probably figure that out. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Professor Outdoors to kick off 2026, and I hope to see a lot more of you this year. Thanks for watching. Okay, I lied. I'm going to give you a little broth shot here. That's what that looks like. And here's the meal. Yum, yum.